This month, you may recall, Stats SA reported that more than 6,000 people were murdered and 11,000 rapes reported in the country between January and March of this year. The figures showed an alarming increase in children and women who were being killed. Well, in response to this, Markham and Primestars will launch a program to fight gender-based violence. For more on this, let's speak to COO at Primestars and Director at Youth Start Foundation, Nkosinathi Mushwana. Nkosinathi, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for being on Daytime Update. Let's talk about why you've now decided to launch this campaign, especially now.
Thank you very much for the platform, and good afternoon to your listeners. We've partnered with Markham on this initiative with one goal of raising a nation of good men. We've looked at the stats of gender-based violence. You've mentioned one of them. South Africa has also been recognized as the rape capital of the world. And what this sums up is that South Africa is an unsafe country for women. So we collaborated with Markham and other GBV stakeholders to create an initiative that will be a first of its kind preventative program focusing on the boy-child, raising a nation of good men to stop gender-based violence.
And it's something you intend to do through educational theatre. How exactly do you intend to capitalize on that? Will it be going to schools primarily, or will you also go into communities and such platforms?
Well, our target audience are high school boys because we want to start early. Perpetrators, according to the numbers, are men. And the thinking is that we need to help redefine masculinity for our boys so that we can raise a nation of good men that become allies to each other and to women and girls. So how we plan to do so is because GBV is such a complex topic that cuts across all demographics, we use a film that teaches them and builds narratives around the storyline we want to teach around good men that will then be extended through educational workbooklets across the country. And we'll be working with Markham and other organizations to then mentor these boys. So we are implementing a national movement that will not only speak, on a one-base occasion, but it's an ongoing movement that will run in township schools, urban schools, and rural schools.
The launch date is today, the 30th of June. Have you already started, or are you still in the process of identifying, let's say, schools that you're going to work with?
You're absolutely right. So today we had the pleasure of launching at the JSE. We had 150 guests with us. I wish you were with us, Tembile, but you'll be joining us at the next one. Today,
I hope I'll be able to attend.
Today we announced the project to the country. Where we are at the moment is that we've got 10,000 young boys already identified from schools across the country. From the 13th of August, we will kick off the program in cinemas across the country and extend it into rural schools, and finally have it available online to access more communities. So we are all systems go, but we need more partners involved so we can go from 10,000 to 50,000 boys.
So violence against women and children in South Africa goes back decades, as do the root causes in some of the cases. It's one thing for you guys to come in with educational theatre at a school, spend a day, a morning with boys, and show them the film and perhaps have a discussion afterwards. In terms of long-term projects and making sure that it's effective, will you then be monitoring, keeping in touch with young men, or how do you think we'll be able to turn things around in the longer term?
Absolutely. So the project is designed to be a long-term initiative. And none of our programs have run less than 10 years in their design. And this one is such a case in terms of gender-based violence that requires long-term and ongoing engagement. So there's three things I can highlight about that. Firstly, the project's timeline is a 6-month implementation to begin with. So our engagement with our boys will be ongoing, particularly to begin influencing this positive behavioral change and redefining masculinity. Secondly, the vision of the project is, though we call it What About the Boys, and it's important to have a preventative initiative, it will not only engage boys, but grow into accommodating girls, parents, schools and communities, and of course society in the long term. And finally, we reiterate the notion and the campaign through stakeholder development. So we've got various GBV sector experts who are collaborating with us to reach all communities over the long term.
And how do you think, Nkosinathi, that we should be redefining masculinity?
Great question. So at the simple term, we have raised our boys under a traditional kind of masculinity that speaks of not crying, not being vulnerable, not understanding your feelings, not communicating, defining yourself by power and violence. And we find ourselves with a group of young men now who are on a pathway of destruction. So we've got to redefine masculinity, teach them to connect and engage with others, to break free from the stereotypes, and to speak up against bullying and inequality, and to understand that women are not only their equals, but are their partners. All of us need to be allies. We need to redefine what it means to be a good man. And the program, as I said, is driving this message of collectively raising a nation of good men.
And I'm not sure if I missed this earlier, but how are you getting in touch with the schools that you'll be working with? Do they reach out to you? Do you identify a school? For example, if a headmaster or a teacher is watching and would like to collaborate, how do they do that?
There's two ways we've done this. So it's a partnership with the Department of Basic Education and Social Development. So we've got schools that have been identified through those departments. We're also collaborating with Markham, who have got their own staff and communities that they operate in, and they are helping, in onboarding certain schools. But on the other end, we've got relationships with our own schools that connect with us on our platform. So if they go on to primestarsdigital.co.za, they can send us messages to sign up. And finally, we've identified GBV hotspots around the country where we can activate boys in these schools.
Nkosinathi Mushwana, all the best with your work. A pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.